Hello everyone, welcome to Mark Stay's Creative Differences, a monthly live stream where I talk to writer chums about the little things that make a big difference to their craft and careers in the hope that we can give readers some insight to their process and writers and other creative folk some practical advice that they can actually use. I'm Mark Stay, author, screenwriter and podcaster, and if you're joining us live, feel free to leave questions in the comments and take part in the conversation. And a big thank you as always to Dom Currie for his epic jingle. That feels very, very apt today because my guest is the author of the brilliant Samuel Pepys Mysteries, wherein the man of history becomes a man of mystery. Oh yeah, I came up with that myself. I'm a writer, me. And he solves murders while avoiding the plague, the plague. And the next book in this series is The Crown Jewels Murders and is out any day now. So my guest is, it's only that, Ellis Blackwood. Welcome to the Creative Differences podcast. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. That was a marvellous jingle.
Let's talk about your amazing books first. So that first one in the series, latest one in the series rather, Crown Jewels Murders, coming out 31st of January. You've got a whole amazing backlist there as well. How many in the whole series in total?
8 so far. Well, the 8th is going to come out. That is Crown Jewels Murders. There's another one coming in another 3 months. So I do one every 3 months.
Wow. Okay, we're going to talk about that in a minute. But let's start with the obvious question: why Samuel Pepys?
We probably need to go back a little bit on this one. I sort of came back into writing when I became unemployable about 2 years ago. I've been a journalist for a long, long time in London, and someone mentioned rapid publishing to me. So I thought, rather than stacking shelves in Tesco, why don't I become a writer again? This time round, I thought about it a bit more carefully, and I thought, what are the biggest genres in fiction? And they are romance, which there was no chance of me writing a romance. And the second was mystery. So I thought, okay, I'll write a mystery. And then I can't remember exactly. I absolutely love reading published diaries. One of them, obviously, the most famous one, is Samuel Pepys' diaries. So I read those, which take a little bit getting into. That whole sort of Old English method of speech is pretty weird, but they are pretty captivating. And so when I thought about mysteries, I don't know, it just popped into my head. What about the Samuel Pepys Mysteries? And it's kind of gave it, rather than like I've got some detectives no one's heard of, I've got Samuel Pepys. It's a hook. And I thought, everyone must know Samuel Pepys. They don't. It also gives you a sort of beautiful historical backdrop. So, when I came up with the idea, it made perfect sense. And in many ways it has worked, and in other ways it's been quite difficult, which I'm sure we can get into. But that was why. It was just kind of a historical hook, and I'd come across his diaries. My initial idea when I thought Samuel Pepys Mysteries was to use all characters, real characters from the diaries. And I started researching it, and it soon became very quickly apparent that was insanity, because it's bad enough researching one historical character and getting him right, let alone doing sort of 20 per book.
That brings me to an interesting sort of point, which is whenever you're writing historical fiction, you've got to balance historical accuracy and story. So which of those is more important to you? Or what's the balance? 60-40, 80-20? How does it work for you?
I take my historical accuracy incredibly seriously. I'm pretty anal about the whole thing, but that doesn't mean I don't make mistakes, particularly in the early days when I was learning it all, because I knew next to nothing about the 17th century when I started writing these books. The learning curve was staggering.
What was the biggest surprise for you?
The weirdest thing was, I remember when I wrote a little novelette to get into the whole thing that I give away, and that was the first time I dipped into 17th century London. And I remember sort of come to a door, and I think, Chris, what's inside? I've got no idea what it looks like. So pretty much everything was a surprise, really. It took at least sort of 4 or 5 books before I was comfortable with what to expect on a London street. So prior to that, every single book, every 10 words, I was Googling something, it was pretty painful. But because I took it so seriously, I think I got there in the end. So I've written 2.5 books, and I press send, publish on the first one, and nothing happened. No one cared. And I'm not sure I got my tactics right. It's supposed to up your Amazon algorithm and that sort of thing if you publish within 30 days. I'm not sure it did.
They change it all the time. I know from dealing with them back when I was at Orion. They realise when people have twigged something and decide, oh, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do something completely different. So I think, the idea that you can somehow game the system, maybe people have done it in the past, but I don't know if it can be done now. But I think certainly for the genre you're writing in, though, that rapid release thing, and just having an instant series, because that's the thing I noticed going out with my books. When I had 1 or 2, people were interested. As soon as I got 3 is the magic number. 3 people were going, I love a good series. I'll take them all. And of course, you're making more money per sale. Was that the experience for you once you were a few into the series?
Yeah, my read through from book 1 to book sort of 7 or 8 is pretty impressive. I was quite surprised and heartened. Yeah, I mean, obviously, provided you're writing a book that people want to read, the more of them you've got, the better, really. Although I set myself quite a mammoth task of releasing one every 3 months.
Now, you're several books into a series. What are the biggest lessons you've learned about writing a series? And is there anything you'd want to go back and change?
Well, I started Samuel Pepys Mysteries without really knowing how much of a series it would be. It could have been just 3 books. It could have been more. I mean, I just kind of kept writing them in the end. I didn't really plan very much at all. It's kind of instinctively, like I put in that my male detective Jacob, his dad dies, and they don't know, it might have been murder, and he'd love to go back and investigate it one day. I guess just because I thought that might come in handy, but as it turns out, it's really handy because I've now set up my series arc without really realising. I am writing series arcs, and I am doing background studies for the characters just so that I can plant things. I've got away with it with Samuel Pepys Mysteries. I put in enough just by pure chance that I can sort of feed things into things. But setting it up in advance, I think, is probably a better idea. It's very interesting, that whole plotter versus pantser thing. I mean, I have pantsed the sort of series elements of this, and they worked. And they worked because they happened organically. I did think about your starting with book 2 kind of vibe. But, I mean, as soon as you mention someone, don't you have to set them up?
Let's talk about plotter, because we love to talk about a writing tool. So yeah, this is one I've got somewhere, and I did try it, but being more of a pantser, I never really got into it. But you've used it for this series, haven't you? And how does it help you?
I've used it extensively. It kind of changed my life. Writing a mystery, I found the whole idea very daunting, because having kind of never plotted, I've written books before, and I only plotted one of them. The idea of plotting something just felt, the idea of writing a mystery just felt beyond me. And it's basically just kind of online post-it notes. You can just start piecing things together. Like, I use a cozy mystery beat sheet of 20 beats every book. So I start off with this thing at the top that says, here's your midpoint. Something terrible has to happen here. They have to fail here. And it gives you a kind of skeletal guide to where you need to put things. So, X murders Y there. And I hate plotting. It's so difficult. I mean, I just plotted the first book of the next series. It took about 2 weeks. I mean, so you finish it. You think, I think I've got this, and then you start going through. No, it doesn't work, and then you go back to the drawing board, and eventually, but it's a real. It's like clawing your way through tar to get there. But it is quite rewarding when you get there, and it makes writing the book an awful lot easier until you get halfway through the book and think this doesn't work still, and then you go back again.
An exciting meeting today with some film people, which was nice. And we were talking about a story idea, and they were saying, well, you could do a treatment, which is kind of an outline of a detailed outline of the story, which would be at least 10 pages long. And I don't think any screenwriter I know likes treatments, because it's that Mark Twain thing of, I would have written you a shorter letter, but I didn't have time. Because by the time you're 10 pages into that thing, you might as well write the screen. You might as well write but that's just me possibly being lazy. I don't know. But it is, until you get into the weeds of it and get to know your characters and what they're thinking. But then everyone has their own way of doing it. I mean, my first drafts are basically very, very long outlines. My big thing is I have my central dramatic argument, which is, what is this about? What's the question the book is asking? I usually, have a good idea of my characters and how they're going to change. How do they start, and then what's the opposite of that? How do they end up? So I have my ending, sort of character ending. And then I just jump in, because if I'm sitting there going, okay, well, at this point, they need to do this, I might as well write it. And I find that I surprise myself more. But crucially, I'm not writing mystery. And I think the thing with mysteries is there is a strong element of thinking this all has to knit tightly together. You know, that Chekhov's gun that appears in the library and whatever, you know, has to pay off later on. So, you know, it's horses for courses. Everyone, this is the thing. Doing all these podcasts over the years, I discovered there's no one way of doing this. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. So each to their own, basically. The other thing is, I love your cover art. Your cover art is just incredible. And am I right in thinking that your cover designer is also your editor?
Yes. I got extremely lucky. The very first little novella I sent to a company who I will not mention, but who get quite a lot of plaudits online. And it was just tortuous. It was so awful. It got worse and worse and worse. My editor, Timothy Brown Esquire, I know from way back. He's a professional designer, but also a huge bookworm. I mean, he kind of knows everything. But he's extremely good at design. So I sent him this awful cover that I got sent. And I think the next day he just sent me something back and went, "What about this?" And it was like these covers, essentially.
Yeah.
And I went, wow. I went, well, you know, thanks so much. That is exactly what I had in mind. He just nailed it straight away. Yes, I have a dual designer stroke editor.
Gavin asks, how did you convince and motivate yourself to keep writing the books without having any feedback on the previous ones yet? I think it's a really good point.
Yeah, it's pretty soul destroying. I mean, you know, but back in the day before I really kind of looked this stuff up, I would get relatives to buy the book and friends to review it. So, you know, it kind of fed your ego and just made you feel like someone cared after all this effort you put in. What inspired me to keep going was looking at my bank balance and thinking, this is your job, mate. Just write another book. So I did. And it's lovely now, you know, I have reached a point finally where I just know that people will review it. But it's been quite a horrible slog to get that far. You've just got to believe in yourself, I think. I mean, I just kind of thought, I think these books are pretty... someone will like these books, I know.
Why did this time period interest you?
It's funny. It wasn't really the time period. It was Pepys. Pepys happened to be 17th century. And one of the issues I found is it's not a popular period for readers. I should have gone Tudor, really. Yeah, no one really gives a toss about the 17th century. Which, the 17th century, it's got Guy Fawkes, it's got the Civil Wars, it's got the Plague, it's got the Great Fire, it's got Kings Charles I and II. It's an amazing period in history. It's a personal battle of mine now to make 17th century popular in mystery fiction, which is quite a large task.
Well, I think it's time we told people the truth. Ellis, if that indeed is your name. Your real name is Nick Griffiths, and there's 18 years ago you published a wonderful book called Dalek, I Loved You, which was about your love affair with Doctor Who and watching it behind the sofa and all that kind of thing. And then this was published by Victor Gollancz at Orion, where I was working. I'd just got a MacBook, my first MacBook, I think, which had iMovie on it. And I'd started doing little filmed interviews with some of our authors. And someone said, "Oh, you'll love this book." And I did love this book. Let's get Nick on and do an interview. So you reminded me the other day that on YouTube, and we're not going to play it.
Oh, thank God.
Because, you know, no. But I do have some screen grabs where we did an interview with you wearing... That's an is that an Auton? Robots of Death. Forgive me, Whovians. And me as a Cyberman doing an interview. And once the show's done, I'll put a link in the show notes so you can check this out. But this was 18 years ago. I watched it again today. It looks like it's filmed on a Fisher-Price digital camera, but it's really, I thought it was really funny. Actually, it was really good. What are your memories of that and this book?
What inspired you to write? Darling, I loved you.
I watched the video myself a couple of days ago. I cannot believe it was 18 years ago. And it is still very funny. There's lots of quite good unscripted comedy in there. My memory of the book was just, it was kind of, well, it was being published by a major publisher. It was an incredibly exciting time for me. When you pop up to Walthamstow and take a video interviewing me in a Robot of Death mask, I thought, wow, I've done it. That's me done for life.
Whovians can be quite picky about their takes on Doctor Who. How was it received by the great Whovian fan base?
Let's call it Marmite. My favourite review was this guy who said, promise me you will never read this book, a complete work blank banker. Wow. Some people absolutely loved it and some people absolutely hated it. And there was an awful lot of people going, he's not even a Doctor Who fan. I mean, obviously I'm a Doctor Who fan. I bought a bloody Cyberman doll for 90 quid.
But like I say, it's so pixelated now. It was very early YouTube.
Sorry, I've got an itch.
I wish there was some way to digitally enhance it so you could see us properly. But it was good fun. It was really good fun.
I am going Victorian next, which...
Hey, big box office Victorians.
Well, exactly. I mean, I made it life very difficult for myself starting in the 17th century, but I've kind of learnt so much and made a few mistakes along the way in the 17th century that I can hit the Victorian period running. So I'm extremely excited about this. I've got a new series starting. I'm writing book 9, the final book of these Pepys Mysteries, Jacob's Last Standish, and that'll come out end of April. And then within 3 months, I'll release the first Quill and Page Victorian Mysteries book.
Twice a month, I run live sessions on Zoom, where you writers, you can ask me questions about the craft of writing your work in progress, the business of publishing. The sessions are fun, informal, chatty. You can send me questions in advance. They're recorded live and saved on Ko-fi for exclusive access to Green Room supporters. I'm running this via Ko-fi. You can join by clicking on the Green Room membership tier for just £20 a month. There's no long-term commitment. With Ko-fi, you can support for just a month or as long as you like. My goal is to be able to give supporters advice so it can make a real difference to their writing and their career, because the way I see it, having worked in this industry for over 30 years, I've made every mistake, so you don't have to. And hey, look, I've got books. I've got the End of Magic trilogy, and the End of Magic trilogy finally complete with the End of Gods there. And a huge thank you to everyone who pre-ordered the End of Gods and people who've read it and left great comments and reviews online. I really, really appreciate it. It's been an epic, properly epic journey. Yeah, thank you so much to everyone who's bought or read or reviewed the books or shared the word or spread the good word. I really, really appreciate it. What small thing has made a big difference to your creative process?
I think sort of treating this, because previously when I wrote books, they were kind of an adjunct to my career as a journalist. Then I had a sort of break where for some reason ran a shop, which was awful and I was terrible at it. And then I came back to writing and I treated it like a career. So suddenly I became very, very serious about it. I did an awful lot of research. I mean, there's so many little things that feed into that. But I think one of the main ones that really, really helped me, perhaps not so much for the writing part, but for all the other stuff around it, the marketing and that sort of thing, was joining a couple of Facebook groups. 20 books to 50K and the self-published support group. So, yeah, I think, yeah. I was all over those in the first year or so of writing the Pepys Mysteries, because there was always someone asking a question, and I'd think, I never even thought of that. It's just extremely helpful. I mean, writing is such a solitary occupation, so to feel that you've got people around who will answer questions for you and know what they're talking about, I found invaluable. So that was really useful. Can I just say your unboxing video of End of Gods was a work of genius. Everyone watching this needs to watch Mark's End of Gods unboxing video. I mean, I've done unboxing videos, and it's just my daughter holds up a phone and videos me unboxing. She's generally holding them the wrong way round or won't press record. Yours was like something off of Star Wars. I was super impressed.
Well, it helps. It helps, living in a house full of very talented young people who work for free. Hey, Emily. So my daughter, her husband, my son, I mean, they all, They all did their bit. I mean, Emily and Kai they edit the podcast, they edit these. This is the live stream, but when it goes out on YouTube, there's clips and all sorts of stuff popping up. And they just, since I did an unboxing for the Crow Folk, where Kai managed to get a Spitfire flying overhead, the shadow of a Spitfire, and it was like, wow, that is like something from a movie. So unfortunately, he did himself in there. I was like, right, if you want to marry my daughter, it's free videos for life. So I've no clue if it moves the sales needle whatsoever. That's the only thing with that. There's absolutely no correlation between the quality of the video and any chart action or anything like that. And
isn't that always the way?
But we enjoy making them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You must have had fun making it. So,
what's the thing that makes you think you're ready to start writing?
I guess I've just kind of finished the research. So Pepys was really helpful. I kind of very early on put sort of 9 or 10 titles together that elicited the idea of a good story. So, Pepys works for the Navy Office. I've got to do something in the Docklands, the Plague Doctor murders. Pepys was around when the first London coffee houses opened up. I'll do the coffee house murders. So there's all that sort of thing. So like when I start to write the coffee house murders, I then research London coffee houses in the 1650s and 60s. And when I've done that, what I know that I can start when I've plotted the bloody thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, very good. How do you know when you're done?
Because I write a book every 3 months. I don't have the luxury of, or actually probably maybe even the curse of going over and over and over it. I send it to Tim, my editor. He kind of gives me the big picture stuff. I read it again. I send it back to him. He sends it back to me. I read it a third time. If it's been a tricky one, I might read it a fourth time. But by that stage, I'm then at the point where I need to start plotting, researching, and writing the next one. So, I'm sure a few errors creep through.
Yeah, because you're up to 9. Yes. Had you always planned 9? Was it always going to be 9?
No, I hadn't planned at all. I just kind of kept writing. And then, as I was saying, I wrote a load of titles out and I've got them in a lovely window on Plotter and I can see this series building. I started, the Crown Jewels murders was a great idea. The tower was around and the last one just kind of rounds the whole thing off. It just felt like the right time to stop. I'd also kind of exhausted the 17th century. So, yeah, it's funny knowing when to stop writing a series.
How do you remember that idea that you have at 3 a.m?
I tend to be charging my phone beside my bed, so I'll sort of lean over, groan and type some stuff down. Or if I'm just feeling really tired, I think, please remember that tomorrow morning. Please remember it. And then I'll remember thinking, please remember that. But I remember what I was trying to remember.
What's the biggest mistake you've made in your writing career?
Hang on, let me check my notes here because I've forgotten. So back when I was a journalist, I thought I'd have a go at screenwriting. And I entered a Scottish BBC competition with a script called Butte Boys, a pun on Boot Boys. Anyway, it didn't get anywhere in that competition, but I still thought it was quite good. And I sent it to Andy Harries, who was then the producer of Cold Feet, which had come out at the time and was huge. And he replied to me and he said, I think you've got a real talent for dialogue. Send me the next thing you write. And I never wrote anything else. And I look back on that and think, you idiot. This guy's basically said, if you write something, I'll read it. Please, Andy Harris, if you're listening to this, please ask me again, because now I will write overnight for decades.
What's the best happy accident?
This one's easy. It was what kicked off my writing career. I was and am a huge David Bowie fan, but not really of his 80s output. So I went to see Tin Machine. I couldn't even get anyone to go with me. That's how I bought 2 tickets and no one would go with me to the Kilburn National. And I remember going in on my own and I just thought, this is awful. I was so disappointed. I left early and I was clearly still angry. And I got back and I sort of penned this review in not even on a typewriter or whatever. And I was a huge Sounds fan. There were the 3 music inkies, NME, Melody Maker and Sounds. Sounds was the kind of the naff one of the 3, but I loved it to bits. So I penned a review of Tin Machine and I sent it off to Sounds. And I naively thought it might get published the next week. So I buy my Sounds and it's not in there. And I think, well, maybe they'll hold it for the next week. Not in there. It never was in there. So I forgot about it. And then about 6 months later, I got a letter from Sean Phillips, reviews editor of Sounds magazine, saying, and I can still sort of remember the wording, woolly couple of last paragraphs, but essentially I really liked it. Would you like to write for Sounds? And it's like, what? Yes, I literally jumped around the room. And that just started my writing career. I'd done a degree in electronic engineering and absolutely hated it. And I really wanted to write, but I'd kind of stuck myself in this awful engineering cul-de-sac. And that freed me for the rest of my life. And here we are now. So, yeah.
Listeners and the viewers, we have to explain Tin Machine, because Tin Machine was at the point, it was a band that he put together. And if they were being interviewed for a magazine or a TV show, Bowie would insist that all the band be present and that everyone be asked questions, not just him. And apparently one journalist got around that by saying, so which one of you is a singer? So yes, you met him. Tell me more.
David Bowie and Tin Machine did a Radio 1 Maida Vale session, and they sent me along. I was working for Select by that stage, and they sent me along to cover it. And I just thought, I mean, there wasn't an interview planned with that, but I just thought, I've got one chance in life. And I just badgered the press guy, who I imagine was Alan Edwards. And eventually they relented and said, yeah, provided you interview the rest of Tin Machine, you can interview David Bowie. And I just remember him coming through this door in the studios going, hello, I'm David Bowie. And it was like, oh my God. I did hold it together until the very end when I got him to sign this bit of paper, this poster kind of thing. And I said, I've got albums you never even knew you released. And he went, no, don't. That was one of those, in fact, I was so thrilled, I left the bloody signed poster behind. Signed. I know.
Closest I ever got to Bowie was I went to see David Gilmour in 2006 at the Royal Albert Hall. Amazing concert. And, they already had David Crosby on there and, it was really, really fantastic evening. And Graham Nash as well doing harmonies and things. And then they did an amazing version of Echoes, just brought the house down. And, my dad was there and my nephew, Christopher. I said, how are they going to follow that? That was amazing. And Gilmour comes on and says, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite onto the stage Mr. David Butt. And that's as far as he got before the place just exploded. And Bowie did Arnold Lane and Comfortably Numb. And he reinvented Comfortably Numb to the point where Rick Wright afterwards, whenever he was doing it, sort of did it a bit like Bowie. Just mind-blowing. Because I sort of knew the bass player, Guy Pratt. We did his book at Orion. And he got me with after parties for rock concerts. You have an outer ring and an inner ring, and we were on the outer ring. So all the super famous people we never got to see. So that's the closest I ever got. But he was phenomenal. Is there a character or a story swirling around in your head that you want to write, but you're not ready to write?
I mean, I think one of my absolute strengths is comedy. I've got an MA in comedy writing from Falmouth University. And that's always been my raison d'etre, even when I was a journalist. I just wanted to make people laugh. I'd kind of put a joke in almost everything I wrote, even if I'm doing some sort of banking thing for some awful banking magazine. So I would really love to write some sort of Rivers of London type. I've never read Terry Pratchett, but it may be that I want to write a Terry Pratchett.
Those little Shire books you get on carousels in Waterstones and indie bookshops? The Shire books, they're about the
Yeah.
They're fantastic. They've got ones on like pill boxes, really specific stuff. It's fantastic. Can't recommend them enough. Are there any other diaries you'd consider bringing to life? The series sounds great. See, a big diary fan. I think the Michael Palin diaries, you might struggle to get the rights for those, but you never know.
I mean, I've read so many diaries, I can't exactly remember all of them. I mean, Kenneth Williams' diaries were pretty dark fantastic. At points. But what a sort of troubled character. You don't realise, what's going on behind the scenes. I think probably my favourite diaries, although I kind of do love them all, are the David Sedaris, his first volume, Theft by Finding, because Sedaris is quite a good writer. But also, like the first, so it was a bit similar to the Michael Palin diaries. The first volume I found best because it was when they were struggling and trying to sort of make their way in life, and suddenly Sedaris gets the thing in Vanity Fair or the New Yorker or whatever it was, and everything takes off. But before that, I mean, he was really he had problems with drugs. They were incredibly poor, absolutely fascinating. And yeah, I mean, to bring that to screen would be amazing, but I think David himself might have first dibs.
What's bringing you joy at the moment? What's making you happy? This can be books, movies, TV shows, music, games, whatever makes you happy when you're not writing.
In fact, I had to leave Traitors to come upstairs for this interview. Yeah. Oh my God. Well, I saw a graphic recently. I think half the country is currently watching Traitors. It seemed to absolutely blow up after that Jonathan Ross, Alan Carr celebrity series. I don't know what it is. I do love this kind of ensemble thingy television. I can't remember the word I'm looking for. We love SAS Who Dares Wins. I really got into that over lockdown. Yeah, that stuff is like nectar to me, and I don't know why, but yeah. As soon as this finishes, I'm going to go down and watch Traitors. So
I do apologise for dragging you away.
Oh, no,
and the thing with this series is there's a best-selling novelist in there, Harriet Tice, who, you know, Sunday Times bestseller, but not on the celebrity one, which I think, yeah. And I think it tells you something about the status of authors in that she's not on the celebrity one, but she's on the, you know, the mere mortals one. So yeah, it's just weird. I've not been watching it. I know I should get into it, but I haven't got time. What else is bringing you joy?
Ski Sunday. As soon as Ski Sunday comes back, I am in seventh heaven. It's not that I even really like skiing. I just love anything set in snow. There's something so ultimately cozy to me about. I mean, I've been skiing myself. I'm kind of sort of okay at it until I fall over and then I start crying and just never want to go skiing again. But the whole après ski thing, you know, the ski chalets and the glühwein and the warm glow in the windows, I absolutely adore that. I'm such a Christmas fan. Ski Sunday runs for, I think, 5 weeks, and when it ends, the Winter Olympics starts. I love the Scottish curling team, one of the greatest sports ever. Oh my God, when the Scottish curling team won the gold, like I think both last time and the time before.
I too love the Winter Olympics, and I know so little about these sports, but there is something brilliant about watching someone hurtle down a slider, side of a mountain on a tea tray. It's gripping stuff.
I've seen loads and loads of times of public service broadcasting. I think they're probably they're a band. I mean, every time I go and see them, there's an awful lot of bald heads and grey hair. There's no kids pogoing down the front. But I mean, this particular album, The Race for Space, is the one that got me, because I come from a time period when we all grew up wanting to be astronauts. I remember watching the Neil Armstrong First Man film on my own in London, and my shirt was literally drenched with tears. I was just sitting there quietly sobbing to myself, hoping that no one noticed. The moon landings. I just watched an Apollo rocket going up, and I'm weeping. I don't know what it is. Yeah, but I just
it's
love
weird. I'm
that.
the same. I'm the same. It's I think it's one of humanity's greatest achievements, done for all the wrong reasons, but one of our greatest achievements. And I saw public service broadcasting when they were promoting this album about 10 years ago at Brixton, the O2 in Brixton Academy, as was. And it was a fantastic gig. My favourite song of theirs, though, is Spitfire, which, just when I was writing Witches of Woodville set in the war, any Spitfire scenes, that's the music that's going on. Absolutely phenomenal song. Really, really cool song. Really.
I thought you might be a fan as well. It's got us written all over it.
Absolutely. Middle-aged men getting teary about things they had no participation in. That's Gen X all over, isn't it? I'm going to talk about a couple of things bringing me joy at the moment. One of them, Ben Elton's memoir. When I was a teenager, watching Ben Elton on Friday Night Live, Saturday Live, was just, I just adored it. Of course, he wrote Blackadder, The Young Ones. And this is a really, really good biography, because he's very honest about all his insecurities, all the kind of, the falling out he had with Alexei Sayle and stuff like that. And weirdly, this is a lot of parallels, certainly the opening to my life. So he's a London boy, moves to Surrey, gets involved with theatre, starts writing and acting. Now, the thing is, he met Rick Mayall and made The Young Ones. That's where I've been going wrong all these years. So but this highly, highly, highly recommended Ben Elton.
That's right.
What have I done? It's very good. I think you really like it. And talking about music again, I'm rediscovering soundtracks on CD. Do you remember CD? And this is a soundtrack to Out of Sight. Now, streamers, terrible at soundtracks, especially old ones. So they only got the Blues Brothers on in the last couple of years. And the thing is, I think because of rights complications, like if you want the Beverly Hills Cop soundtrack, someone might have put together a playlist or whatever. But this is the Out of Sight soundtrack, and things like the Jackie Brown one, which have little snippets of dialogue from the movies in them, interpolated with the songs, which I can't, when I hear It's Your Thing, it ties into the open of that movie. So I've been really, really enjoying that as well. And the other thing that's bringing me joy at the moment is sort of going viral in the last couple of days. I put a thing up on Instagram about, we got our PLR, which is public lending right statements, which is, authors get money every time you take a book out of the library. And apparently a lot of people don't know that. And I took that photo this morning. It's at 103,000 views. And I'm up to 110 at the moment. And what's lovely is, apart from 2 comments, everyone's been positive, absolutely positive, really, really lovely. So, that's what's been making me happy.
Oh, that's amazing. So, have you seen any sales on the back of it?
Not a single book. No, to be fair, to be fair, people are now saying, I'm going to order this for my audio books for my library. I'm going to go to the library more often, which is really important. And people are saying, I'm putting you in my TBR list. So, you can't, really quantify this stuff, but you never know.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And it's just been really, really good vibe. So I really hope you've enjoyed this episode of Creative Differences. You're going to find all the links we discussed in the show notes for this episode and on the episode's webpage at marksdaykreativedifferences.com. A huge thanks to Emily for production assistance, and to Kai Newton for the edit, and to Dominic Currie for the jingle. Let's hear it again. And my next guest, and I've forgotten to do a graphic for this, so Kai, in the edit, I'll have to drop this in. My next guest is going to be Jeremy Zahl, who is a amazing science fiction author from Down Under. And that's going to be Tuesday, 17th of Feb. You're definitely going to join us for that. And we're back on track. We're going to be doing 1 a month for the next year. I'm basically booked up for 10 months of the year already. And it's just such a joy speaking to authors like Ellis/Nick about their writing process. So, thank you so much for joining us, folks, and have a lovely evening, and happy reading and happy writing. And now we have to wave at the camera because it's like...
Thank you, Mark. Thanks so much. And thanks, Emily.